Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to be pressure canning chicken in my Nesco Smart Canner. I'm Rebecca from StockingMyPantry.com. Now, I decided to create this video for a couple of reasons. One, I recently got a comment on one of my Nesco canner videos, and it was asking, had I ever canned meat in my Nesco? And yes, I have. And the question though made me realize that I haven't necessarily done a great job of showing you guys that process, so I decided that I would make a video about it. The other reason is I happened to get some chicken breast at a decent price, and I've already canned some barbecue chicken, which I'll talk about that. I didn't make a video, but I'll talk about that a little bit. But today I'm just going to be canning just plain chicken breast, and so I will show you that process now. Okay, so I'm starting with, I've got 5-pint jars because that's how many jars you can fit in your Nesco. You can fit 5 pints or 4 quarts. I'm using pints today. I have 4 wide mouth and 1 regular mouth, and it's just because I'm short on jars. Otherwise, I would have used 4 of the wide mouth. And I have also this bowl of chicken that I've cut up. I've removed most of the fat from the chicken. And you can see there's teeny bits that I've left on, but I've cut off like any larger pieces of fat and just cut it into chunks. I have about 4 1/3 pounds of chicken. So I'm going to start off, oh, let me also just say that I heated these jars in my Nesco. What I did is I just put the jars in, put some water in, and close the lid and put it on the water bath setting, basically just to boil the jars. That wasn't so much to sterilize them as to heat them, because I am going to use hot water in this. Okay, so what I'm going to start off by doing is just dropping chicken in. And one thing that you do need to be careful of is you don't want to cram so much in that you don't have enough headspace. It used to be that people said, and actually I don't think I really need the funnel even, but it used to be that people said that you should use 1 inch headspace. Now they're recommending 1 1/4 inch. And particularly since I use Tatler lids, it's best if you err on the side of putting a little bit more headspace than what is called for. So I'm going to show you the process with this 1 jar, and then I'll do the rest of the jars off camera. So I'm checking, I've got just about 1 inch, some spaces about 1 1/4 inch headspace. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this to remove air bubbles. And I could maybe fit just like another small piece in there. But again, I don't want to go too high. Now you'll notice that I am not putting any water or anything in. The chicken will make its own juice. And so I'm going to, I'm putting chicken. I'm personally not putting any seasoning. You could put salt in, you could do whatever, but I'm just doing straight chicken. All right, and so now that I have put the chicken in and checked the headspace, I'm going to wipe the rim with vinegar, because I want to make sure there's not any greasy residue on there, anything that would keep the jar from sealing properly. And I'm going to take a lid. You can see this is a little stained up, but it's clean. And a gasket, and put that on there and seal it. And I'm not going to talk a lot about using Tatlers on this, because that's not really what this video is about. But make sure that the lid is on there properly. I've done fingertip tight, and then I'm just going to back off just a little bit, and I'm going to put that in the canner. So I'm going to fill up the rest of the jars, and I'll bring you back when I'm ready for the next step. Okay, so I'm down to the last 2 jars, and you can see that they're not as full as the other ones. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the other jars from the canner and just take a couple of pieces of meat from each jar to kind of bring these up to the space that I want them to be, and It'll also kind of help make sure that I'm not overdoing any of the jars. So I'm going to finish that up, wipe the rims again, put the lids back on, and stick them in the canner, and then I'll bring you right back. Okay, so all of the jars are in the canner, and I'm going to add 8 cups of hot water. And this isn't necessarily, but I'm going to put in the leftover vinegar from wiping the rims. And now I'm going to close the lid, turn it to the closed position, and then I'm pressing high, putting in the time, and I'm going to put in 75 minutes. If I was doing quarts, I would put in 90 minutes. And I'm going to switch the this valve here over to the exhaust position, and then I'm going to go ahead and press start. Okay, so this is going to go around and around. That's just called the digital chase. What's happening is it is building the right amount of heat and pressure. That can take up to a half an hour, and then what will happen is you'll see an E10, and then we wait for it to count down to E0, and then switch the valve to airtight. Okay, so while this is heating up, I'm going to just share a couple of other things with you, and then we'll go through the whole process together. Okay, so as I demonstrated in this particular batch that I'm canning, I'm just doing straight chicken, no salt, no nothing. You can put salt, you can put spices, and in fact, I wanted to show you, this is something that I did last week, and it is barbecue chicken. So what I did for this is I just put the chicken in, and about halfway through I put in probably about 1/3 of a cup of barbecue sauce. I didn't measure, I just kind of squirted some in, put some more chicken, squirted a little bit more barbecue sauce, and then I did the rest of the process the exact same as this. And you can see how watery this is. I didn't add any water or anything, and this has plenty of water in it. So I decided I had one of these jars that didn't seal. So what I decided to do is just make it for lunch. I thought it would be nice to have barbecue chicken sandwiches. So what I did with this is I just dumped it into the pot, liquid and all, because you could drain the liquid, but it has a lot of good flavor, so why drain it? So I just dumped it into basically into a skillet, and then used 2 forks to shred up the chicken, and just simmered it until all of the liquid was absorbed. And it made really delicious barbecue sandwiches. So I just wanted to say that you can do really simple things like that. If you want something other than just plain chicken, you can do barbecue sauce, you can do, Frank's buffalo sauce. I'm thinking about, I haven't done it yet, but I'm thinking about on another one, trying some soy sauce with some garlic and some ginger, and then having that ready for a stir fry. So anyway, just wanted to show you that there's multiple ways you can do this. One other thing that if you don't have a lot of pantry space that you might want to consider trying is do maybe a variety of different things in one canner. That's what I'm kind of considering doing for the next time, so that I have multiple types of chicken ready in my pantry for any given time, and I can just use them however I want. So anyway, I will bring you back when it shows E10, and then we'll talk about that a little bit, because there's a little bit of controversy about what to do with this process, when to switch it to airtight, and so on. So I'll bring you back in whenever this builds up the right amount of pressure. Okay, E10 just now popped up, and a lot of people say that at this point you should switch the valve to airtight. I'm waiting until it counts down to E0. And the reason I'm doing that is because the current manual says to wait until it goes to E0 before you switch the valve to airtight. The Carey manual, older manuals, said to switch it to airtight when it hits E10. That's why there's a lot of confusion on this. But the current instructions are to wait until it hits E0. Also, a reason why I do that is because waiting 10 minutes for it to vent, allowing 10 minutes for it to vent, more closely mirrors what you do with a stovetop pressure canner. For those of you who have seen videos or used a stovetop canner, you know that you wait until a steady stream of steam starts going out. You set a timer for 10 minutes and then you put the valve on. So essentially I'm doing the same thing in my Nesco. I'm going to wait for it to count down to E0 and then I will switch the valve to airtight. Just one other point on the valve. You may have noticed that I have a green valve on my canner. Some people have a black valve. Both valves come with the Nesco or the Carey pressure canner. And the reason for the two valves is the green one is for 15 pounds of pressure for those who are 1,000 feet elevation or higher. And the black valve is if you're less than 1,000 feet elevation. I happen to be at around 1,650 feet elevation and therefore I use the green valve. Okay, I will pause this video and I'll bring you back when we're ready for the next step. Okay, you can see that it's now at E1. In just a minute it will go to E0 and I'll talk about what happens at that point. By the way, just as a side note, let me say that you can see it looks like the light by the high button and the E1 are flashing. They're really not. Okay, you probably heard it go to E0 and beep. And so what I'm going to do now is, you can't really see, but I'm switching it to airtight. You can hear that steam sound kind of stopped. Right now it's still showing E0. And basically this is equivalent to if you have used a stovetop canner or seen a stovetop canner used, when after 10 minutes of venting you put the weight on and it doesn't start rocking right away. So basically what I did switching it to airtight was like putting the weight on a stovetop canner. And the right amount of pressure needs to build, and when it does, then it will show, sometimes it does this like little digital chase thing again, and once it's built pressure all the way to the point that it needs, it will automatically start counting down from, in this case, 75 minutes. It'll show 75 minutes on the display and then it will start counting down from there. So I'll try to capture that when that happens, but if not, just know that that is what's happening. So I don't need to do anything else with this until the 75 minutes counts down, and then I'll unplug the canner. So anyway, if I'm able to, I will bring you back at that time, but otherwise, just know that that is the process that will happen. Okay, as suspected, it now is moved to the digital chase portion, and the pressure is continuing to build, and once it's at the right level, then it will show 75 minutes on the cooking time display. And actually, this is one of the things that I love about the Nesco, is because you don't have to wonder. Like when I use a stovetop canner, I'm like, is it rocking enough? Is it rocking too much? What should I do? This recognizes all of that on its own, and it does it at the perfect time and perfect level of heat and pressure. So now just waiting for it to show 75 on the display. Okay, it just beeped and you can see that now it's showing 75 minutes, and I don't need to really pay much attention to it. I do like to stay nearby so that if by chance it stops running for some reason, I've only had that happen once and it was because I overloaded the circuit. But anyway, I'm going to stay nearby, but I don't have to sit and really pay close attention to it. So at the time that it counts down to 0, I may not be able to give an update, but if that happens, I will take a couple pictures and talk about it, and then of course show you the final project at the end, the final product at the end. See you in a bit. 5 minutes just completed, and so you can see that it says off, and I am going to unplug the canner. I really don't know the purpose of unplugging the canner. It seems like if it was off, it was off, but the manual says to unplug it, so I unplugged it, And now I'm going to let it sit for a minimum of 1 hour. I'm going to let the pressure come down completely on its own, not do anything to hurry it up. And then once that it comes down naturally, again, a minimum of 1 hour, I will open the lid and take the jars out. Okay, I just wanted to show you guys the finished product. You can see this one here has the lid on, and that's because that one did not seal, so I've had it sitting in the refrigerator. But the rest of them sealed, and they're looking good. It seems like almost every time that I use these Harvest Guard lids, I have one that doesn't seal. And so, in fact, I already had plans before I did the canning. I had plans for how to use one of the cans. And so I'm going to be using it tomorrow for an Indian chicken salad sandwich that we like to make. And so it won't go to waste. But anyway, you can see these look pretty yucky. That's just the way that they are. There's nothing wrong with them. They don't look that attractive on the shelf, but they are definitely delicious. And so I hope that you will give them a try. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you'd like the video, and if you haven't already done so, if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.